it's hard because they don't understand. They're focusing on debt. And we have to understand that whatever we focus on grows and expands. Whatever we, like Emerson says, whatever we give our attention to, we give power to. We never want to focus on debt. I remember when I got involved in this information, I was $150,000 in debt, had a foreclosure sticker on my garage. And I had listened to Bob Proctor, and he told me, and he said, getting out of debt is the worst goal anybody can have. See, if you focus on debt, you're going to get more debt. And he said, I want you to shift it to financial freedom. Now, I believe financial freedom is one of the most worthy goals anybody can have and create for themselves because of what it makes of you. Now, from that moment, I didn't think about debt. And you may be thinking, well, how did you do it? I just literally took somebody's advice who was living much better than I was living. And I didn't know it at the time, but I created a prosperity consciousness even when my results weren't good, because all I was thinking about was how to earn money. I was reading a goal card that had my goal on it, which was prosperity, which was I was living a life of freedom, doing what I want when I want it. So if anybody's in debt right now and you're listening to this, what created the debt was your past beliefs, behaviors, decisions. What you want to do is bombard your subconscious mind with prosperity. See prosperity everywhere you go. Like we're driving right now and I'm looking around and all I see is abundance. Well, if we start putting our attention on this for a 3-6 month period, what's going to happen is you're going to start getting ideas of how you can earn more. Like I hope somebody right now is listening to this and something's triggering for them, because that's when it changed for me. Even though my results hadn't changed, my attention changed towards prosperity. And we want to keep our attention on that. See, wealth is an idea, it's invisible. And we have to understand the genius inside of us. And what is that genius? It's our subconscious mind. See, most people will say, oh, I know what the subconscious is, but do they know? Do they have that understanding that your subconscious is your treasury? That's where your fortune is. That's where your garden is. Whatever you plant in there is going to grow. So if I'm planting, oh, I got to get out of debt, guess what? I'm going to create more debt. But imagine for 6 months, you say for 6 months, every time I think of debt, I'm just going to reject that idea. And we have to understand, when we reject an idea, you're using your higher faculty, your reason, which allows you to accept or reject. I want everybody to reject that and create a affirmation that you're going to become. The affirmations are delusions if we don't behave like that. Something to the fact that I'm so happy and grateful now that all I see is prosperity in my life. I'm earning whatever you're earning, 100,000, 200,000, 50,000 a month or more, and I love it. And then you keep repeating that to yourself, and then every day write down 5 ideas, and don't judge the ideas. Some of them are going to be bad, some of them will be okay, one's going to be really good. Every day in the morning, get out a piece of paper and a pen and write out 5 ideas every day on how you can earn more money. And then what will naturally happen is, if you act on those ideas, build the disciplines. If you're following me at all and following our YouTube channel and going to our events and doing what I'm telling you, you're going to see your behaviors are going to change, your beliefs are going to change, and you're going to see that you're going to release the debt, and all you're going to think about is being paid in full and on time on all your accounts. Yeah, well, what happens is I always ask people this. They'll say, no, I know this. And I say, well, what are your results? And they say, well, my results aren't what I want. I said, then you don't know it. You've heard about it. And I don't want anyone to feel bad about it. I was the same way. Before I really got this and really understood it, I realized that I didn't know it. I knew about it. And I had to go deep. See, I was just keeping the information in my conscious mind. And if somebody's listening to this and saying, I've been doing the processes, I haven't changed the results, it's because you haven't changed your dominating belief in your subconscious mind. So repetition is the key. And you don't know a thing until you do it. You don't know it until your results change. The results will always tell the story. And then we got to understand what learning is. Learning is not hearing about it, not knowing about it. It's getting intellectually involved in the idea. Say, for example, I want to create freedom. Okay, let's say somebody wants that. Okay, then I'd say, well, what is freedom? To me, it's doing what you want, when you want, however you want, with whomever you want, as many times as you want. Now, I get intellectually involved in that idea, but that's step one. Step two is I've got to get emotionally involved in that idea. I've got to really keep doing the repetition, even when I don't want to do the repetition of putting the right ideas into my subconscious mind. I've got to surround myself with the right people. And then the third part is, and this is step one and step two, you get intellectually involved. Step two is getting emotionally involved. Step three is you have to go step out and act on that idea. And you may have to step out and act on that idea for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. And then your results are going to change, and that's how you know that you know. You make conscious contact with it, that you know that you know that you know, and you're implementing it. And how you'll know, because it'll be harder for you not to do it than to do it. Now it's part of your identity. It's a done deal. And I don't move on to anything until I implement it. You know, I used to read 300 books in a year. Like, I'm not exaggerating, but my results weren't changing. All I was doing was gathering information. I was studying like I studied when I was in school. All I was doing was gathering information. But what you want to do, if you're going to read a book, I'll tell you exactly how to study it. Is you want to read a book, read it one time through, that's fine. Then read one paragraph for 30 days of something. Or read one chapter every day for 30 days. Then you don't go to chapter 2, and then you read another chapter for 30 days. And let's say it has 12 chapters, that's the book you study this way for a year. And I never move on from a book until I've implemented the ideas. Now, what I like to do is I'll get paragraphs in a book that I really want to make part of what I'm not doing, that I really want to make part of who I am. And I'll study that paragraph. Maybe it's 3 or 5 paragraphs. I'll read it 5 times a day, and I never move on from that, what I'm studying, until I've implemented it. Too many people are moving on from one book to the next, to the next, to the next, and they're not going deep enough where they're making it part of who they are. For me, the book that had the greatest impact on me was The First Principle of the Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. I've studied that book. There's 5 paragraphs in that book, in that chapter, that I've studied probably 2,000-3,000 times. And why it had such an impact on me is I was letting the outside control me. Waddle said there's a science to getting rich. It's doing things in a certain way. And he said you have to hold the truth regardless of appearances. He said it's the hardest work in the world. Thinking based on appearances, he says, is easy. Think truth regardless of appearances is laborious and the hardest work in the world. Well, that's what I was doing. I was doing the opposite. See, I was letting the outside control me. So when the outside was good, I was really high. When it was bad, I was really low. And I got sick of living like that. And that's when I studied this, because I knew that was my attitude, and I was letting the outside dictate my attitude. So I went on a 2-year total dive into studying this book. And every year still I study it. I'll study it for 60, 90 days because I want to remind myself not to let anything control me but me. I want to be the only thing that dictates my programming. I want to be the only thing that's dictating my paradigm. I want to plant what I want in there, not what I don't want. So in my opinion, that is the That's the book that changed my life. That chapter in that book is what changed my life. And if you look at and study any book regarding wealth, they never talk about money. They're always talking about principles. They're talking about service. They're talking about leaving people better off. So everything is self-image. When I coach somebody, the first thing I do is I want to find out where their image is currently. That tells me a big story about what's going on and what I need to adjust in them and work from their image and find out what their goal is and really fill in that space. See, until we change our concept, nothing's going to change. That's me, that's anybody walking this planet. We have to work with a bigger idea of ourselves. And we have to understand, where is the image currently? Where is the program currently? See, 95% of our day is run by a program. Our self-image is our boundary to achievement. I don't care what that is. I don't care if it's fitness, if it's relationship. It doesn't matter what it is. That's just the deal. And so self-image, if you think about, if somebody's listening to this and want to study self-image, in 1960, I don't know if it was exactly 60, in the 60s, Maxwell Maltz wrote a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. It's the best book to this day on self-image psychology. And so self-image impacts everything we're doing. But how we do one thing's how we do everything. People will be like, oh, that's not true. Well, you may be confident in a certain area, so you're going at it with a certain image. But it's impacting. If you could do that in one area, you could do it in every area. You know, there's so many great books out there. The best books haven't even been written. You know, so I will tell you, that's why we have to understand we have all access to all the knowledge in the world. That's from hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years. We have access to all the power in the world. See, we have so much power inside of us that when we direct it to a certain end, we use it. That's how, you know, if you hear these stories about a woman, her child was under a car and a 120-pound woman can lift up the car. Well, why? Because they have access to all the power in the world. And their spiritual DNA is perfect. But on top of our spiritual DNA being perfect, we have a program. And we've got to break the walls of that program. The first step to break that wall is decision. You've got to make an irrevocable, I call them defining decisions, that this is where I'm going no matter what. And that's when your world changes. That opens the door for you to have a clear pathway to where you want to go. I'm in the process of writing a book. I think it's going to be released sometime in the beginning of next year.
Can you elaborate on maybe what it's about or anything like?
It's going to be a book that's really going to deconstruct everything that I've done, that I went from failure to success. And anybody who follows it, I'm making it very directional, very action-oriented, because, you know, one of my things is the only thing people are missing is direction. So you give them the right actions, they're going to create the right results. Most people just don't know what to do. There's so much that you can implement with this philosophy that they get overwhelmed. I want to focus on studying the book that I'm writing in a certain way and understanding how to get the most out of it. And so I'm not going to release it until it's absolutely the way I want it to be. What advice would I give myself in my 20s, in my early 20s right now? What advice would I give that person? I would give myself, and I wish I had this advice, which I didn't until later in my late 20s, is I'd find a really good mentor and always have 5 to 6 very thought out questions for the mentor and do exactly what they tell you to do. I would never go to my mentor and not be prepared. I don't want them, I would say don't have them do the work for you. Really be very vulnerable, and then I would follow it to the letter. And I would give my myself advice in my 20s is the 20s is about building grit, building your character, building persistence, building attitude, building discipline. And then my 30s, I would give myself advice is go big, dream big. Really in your 20s, build the foundation. In your 30s, really go bigger than you think. Take a lot of risks, act on those risks, and watch what'll happen. And then your 40s, you're going to be free. In my late 20s, even when I was studying this information, early 30s, I was so ignorant. I mean, I could tell you, like, I thought I knew, I didn't know. And, you know, I would come at it, and obviously it's worked out well for me because you learn more in your losses than your wins. But my biggest problem was I was blaming the outside. I didn't have ownership. And I'd be saying, I'm studying this doesn't work. I'm doing this doesn't work. I was the problem. And my problem was ignorance. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I got to a situation that everything was going in such a bad way that I finally changed my philosophy, and I said, you need to stick to somebody who really knows what they're doing, and you need to be on their hip and do exactly what they're telling you to do. And I willingly, I always teach this in my events, you have to willingly suspend disbelief. Whatever's happened in the past doesn't matter. Our next move is the most important. So ignorance was my biggest obstacle, and I didn't know I was ignorant. I really thought I was doing it, but the results told me I wasn't. And that's when I knew that I knew what I didn't know. And that's when the gateway started opening up, when I burned my bridges and I said, I'm just gonna follow it to the letter and do exactly what somebody who has proven results has already demonstrated, and do exactly what they tell you to do. I met several people that overpromised and underdelivered. But I attracted that, so I don't blame them. I blame myself because of where I was. And did I do exactly what they told me? Maybe not. You know, but you know the real deal because the truth always resonates with the essence of who we are. And you know somebody who walks their walk and who is not just repeating something but living it. You just know, you'll know because you know that you know. But I'll give you an advice. If you're looking for a mentor, you wanna find somebody who you really connect with and do exactly what they tell you to do. Don't keep jumping around, and find somebody who's demonstrated the results over and over again. And that's when you found the right person. And put everybody else aside and focus on what that mentor tells you for a long period of time. I know, and I'm very open about this, anybody who comes works with me, works with our company of Voss Coaching, we know what we're talking about. Why? Because I spent 15 years of working with the best in Bob Proctor. And him and I worked side by side, and I did exactly what he told me to do. And at the end of his life, he says, you know this just as well as I do. And I didn't. I mean, I am aware that I didn't know that as well as him, because he had so much, he's the most aware person. I strive to be able to help people like Bob helped people, but I know, because our clients get so many results. Why do they get the results? Because I've done the work. And I know how to take somebody from where they are to where they want to go. And I'm very honest, very direct, very action-oriented, very directional to show someone how to get from where they are to where they want to go. And if somebody's hearing this right now, you want to contact us. I have, like, Monica DeMarin is my top coach. And in my opinion, she's at the 0.1% of the best coaches in the world. I've got my partner, Mikey Stiller, She's extraordinary. I mean, extraordinary, so bright. Her and I work side by side growing together, and we get people results. I have the best assistant in the world, Nicole Leeds Garcia. She's extraordinary. And I remember Bob told me, he said, it's the best decision you ever made. He said, the first thing I do is I tell somebody to hire a great assistant, and you treat them great, and you build them, and you lead them, and you give them autonomy, and you give them exact direction. My assistant has taken so much off my plate, which it allows me to do what I'm really good at. I don't want to check emails. I don't want to do admin work. I don't want to do executive assistant work. I want to go create new programs, new ideas, have the time to work with people so I can get them to create a world-class life. And so you want to leverage yourself, and you do it with a great assistant. That assistant will take so much off your plate, and you have to create a phenomenal connection and relationship with them. If I coach anybody, the first thing I tell them to do is get a great assistant. And, you know, my mentor taught me that. Even though I did it before he taught me, he really emphasized it to me. For me, when I coach somebody, the first thing I do is I ask a lot of questions to find out where they are to where they want to go. And I fill in the gap, and I want to get them sold on the idea that they can achieve what they want. I can show them how. I have no question in my mind. I can show them how. Why? Because I know that anybody who does what I tell them, I can teach them how to get to where they want to go if they'll do the discipline. See, when you're coaching somebody, I don't care what industry it is, their business is a reflection of them. But the first thing I want to identify is where is their programs right now, so I'll ask them what their results are. And I'll say, well, how much do you earn? I don't care what they earn. You know, that was based on the past, but it tells me what I need to adjust in their self-concept to get them to move. So I have a starting point, and then I give them exactly what to do and how to do it. But the thing that I have to get them to master is discipline, understanding how the mind works, and understanding how to replace their current paradigm and change it and live from the new paradigm. And discipline is critical, but I tell everybody I coach, if you're gonna work with me, you have to pay the price. And that price is whatever it demands. It means whatever it takes. Because I know if you're going after something worthy of you, you have to grow. See, we can't change circumstances, but we can change ourselves. That's when our life becomes magical. And I teach them how to fall in love with themselves, because until you fall in love with you, your life isn't magical. When you fall in love with you, your life becomes so effortless. Well, anybody who comes to our World Class Wealth event, we've done 2. The second one was better than the first one, but it should be because you have repetition at it. And I talked to a client yesterday. She said it was the best thing she's ever done in her life. And this is a very accomplished woman. And she said it was mind-blowing. Well, because wealth is invisible. I get them to understand who they are, and I get them to really implement what they want to create the life that they want. Not just the business, but every aspect of their life. I teach them how to become a great leader, because until we have a trail of leaders, we're not leading anybody. And when you're leading people, that's where great wealth is created, when you're helping others get to where they want to go. I teach them how to sell an idea, how to sell a product, how to sell themselves on what they want. And I show them the goal achievement process, because goal achievement is an art. It's a manipulation of energy. It's bringing the new energy into form, releasing the old energy, and I take them step by step, but it's very hands-on. And one of the key components, I teach them how to create leverage. See, when you're working with people, like this event, we have 40 people, and I keep giving it right now at 40 because I want it so intimate where I have the opportunity to work with everybody. And I work with them, and I teach them how to leverage. See, the man or woman that needs nothing has the most leverage. I teach them how to detach from the outside and really live from the inside. I teach them how to completely surrender, because that's when your life becomes magical, when you just allow things to come, you let it happen. And I get them in the spirit of how they want to live. When we're in the spirit of it, we're in love with the idea. I'll tell you this right now, anybody who comes into our World Class Wealth event, I can guarantee you, if you'll do what I tell you and really do it, really get in the spirit of really taking yourself on, you're going to create a massive life-changing transformation. And the beautiful part of our events is we don't just do the event, we have 90 days of follow-up coaching afterwards. See, accountability is a success insurance policy. And I'm going to keep doing this over and over and again because we've created a community of doers, a community of people who are absolutely committed, and they're the new leaders in the world. They're creating things they never even imagined. Now, why? Because I'm getting them to understand who they are. And then I'm getting them to discipline themselves and do the right disciplines. I'm getting them to understand not what to think, but how to think. And that's world-class wealth. It's our birthright, and all we have to do is lean into it.